Society has lied to you. They told you that sharing your feelings is healthy, that venting is therapeutic, that complaining helps you process emotions. Complete garbage. Every minute you spend complaining is making you weaker, more dependent, and less capable of handling real challenges. The self-help industry has convinced millions of people that talking about problems is the same as solving them. Meanwhile, the people who actually succeed in life learned a secret your therapist won't tell you. Nobody cares about your problems except you. The world rewards those who solve problems, not those who eloquently describe them. Stop talking about what's wrong and start fixing what's broken. There are two types of people in this world. Those who complain about what needs to be done, and those who simply do what needs to be done. And the second group is getting smaller every day. You walk into any workplace, any neighborhood, any family gathering, and what do you hear? Complaints. People complaining about their jobs, their bosses, their spouses, their kids, the weather, the government, the economy. It never ends. But every once in a while, you meet someone different. Someone who faces the same challenges, the same difficulties, the same unfair circumstances, but they just handle it. They just do what needs to be done. These people stand out like a lighthouse in a storm. You notice them immediately. They have a different energy, a different presence. While everyone else is busy explaining why something can't be done, they're already doing it. While others are listing all the reasons why life is hard, they're quietly making life better. I learned this lesson early when I was working at Sears. There was Betty, who worked in the same department. Every morning, the rest of us would gather around the coffee machine and complain. We complained about customers, management, low hours, low pay, but Betty never joined us. She would come in, say good morning, and get straight to work. At first, we thought she was antisocial. Maybe she thought she was better than us. But then I started watching her. When difficult customers came in, while we would roll our eyes and complain later, Betty would calmly help them solve their problem. When management gave us extra work while we grumbled, Betty would organize her time and tackle it. You know what happened? Betty got promoted, then promoted again. Within 2 years, she was managing the department, the same department where we were still complaining about the same things. Betty wasn't smarter than us. She wasn't more talented. She just had one quality that made all the difference. She did what needed to be done without complaining. This is what separates the successful from the struggling. This is what separates the leaders from the followers. This is what separates those who build something meaningful from those who spend their lives explaining why they can't. When you develop the ability to do what needs to be done without complaining, you automatically put yourself in a different category. You become the person others turn to when something important needs to happen. Think about it. When you have a serious problem, when something really matters, who do you call? You don't call the complainer. You don't call the person who's going to spend an hour telling you how difficult everything is. You call the person who listens to the problem and says, okay, let's handle this. You call the person who focuses on solutions instead of obstacles. The truth is, we live in a culture that has made complaining socially acceptable. It's almost become a form of bonding. People get together and compete to see who has it worse. They share their problems like trading cards. But here's what they don't realize. Every minute you spend complaining is a minute you could spend improving your situation. Every ounce of energy you waste on what's wrong is energy you could invest in making things right. Complaining is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. It creates the illusion of activity without any actual progress. And the worst part is it becomes addictive. The more you complain, the more you find to complain about. Your mind becomes trained to look for problems instead of solutions. But there's something even more dangerous about complaining. It doesn't just affect your mood or your day, it shapes your character. Every time you choose to complain instead of act, you're training yourself to be a victim instead of a victor. You're programming your mind to see obstacles instead of opportunities. You're building the habit of helplessness instead of the habit of action. I've noticed something interesting over the years. Complainers attract more problems. It's like they have a magnet for difficulty. They always seem to have more drama, more conflict, more things going wrong. But people who don't complain, who just handle whatever comes their way, they seem to have fewer problems. Or maybe they have the same number of problems, but they solve them so quickly that you never hear about them. Here's what I think happens. When you complain, you're broadcasting to the world that you're overwhelmed by your circumstances. You're advertising that you can't handle what's on your plate. So life keeps giving you more of the same. But when you handle things without complaining, you're sending a different message. You're saying, I can handle this. Give me more responsibility. Give me bigger challenges. And life responds accordingly. Let me tell you about my friend Sarah. She started a small business about 5 years ago. A consulting company. Nothing fancy, just her and a computer in a spare bedroom. Now, starting a business is hard. There are 1,000 things that can go wrong and probably will go wrong. Most people would have plenty to complain about, but Sarah had a rule. She never complained about business challenges to anyone. Not to her family, not to her friends, not to other business owners. When someone asked how business was going, she would either say it was going well, or she would briefly mention a challenge and immediately follow it with what she was doing to solve it. Here's what happened. People started referring clients to her, not because she was the cheapest or even the best at what she did, but because she was the most reliable. She was the person you could count on to handle whatever you threw at her without drama, without excuses, without making you listen to a long story about how difficult everything was. Today, Sarah's company has 12 employees and works with some of the biggest corporations in the city. She built that success on one simple principle: do the work without complaining about the work. And you know what's interesting? She genuinely enjoys what she does now. When you stop complaining about your circumstances and start improving them, something magical happens. The circumstances actually get better. Now, I'm not saying you should never acknowledge problems. I'm not saying you should pretend everything is perfect when it's not. There's a difference between complaining and problem solving. Problem solving is when you identify what's wrong and focus on what can be done about it. Complaining is when you identify what's wrong and focus on how unfair it is. Problem solving sounds like this. The client is unhappy with our proposal. Let me call them and find out exactly what they need, then revise our approach. Complaining sounds like this. This client is impossible to please. They keep changing their mind. They don't know what they want. This always happens to me. See the difference? Same situation, completely different approach. One leads to solutions, the other leads to frustration. One builds your reputation as someone who can handle difficult situations. The other builds your reputation as someone who makes difficult situations worse. The most successful people I know have learned to see challenges as normal parts of life. They don't get upset when things don't go according to plan because they never expected everything to go according to plan. They understand that obstacles are not interruptions to their success. Obstacles are the path to their success. Think about any great achievement in history. Think about any successful business, any meaningful relationship, any worthwhile goal that's ever been accomplished. Was it easy? Did everything go smoothly? Of course not. The difference between those who achieved something significant and those who didn't wasn't the absence of problems. It was the response to problems. When the Wright brothers were trying to build the first airplane, they didn't complain about the laws of physics. They worked with them. When Thomas Edison was working on the light bulb, he didn't complain about the hundreds of failed attempts. He learned from them. When Walt Disney was building Disneyland, he didn't complain about the critics who said it would never work. He proved them wrong. These people understood something that most people never learn. Life is supposed to be challenging. That's not a flaw in the system. That's a feature. The challenges are what make you stronger, smarter, more capable. The difficulties are what develop your character and your skills. The obstacles are what separate those who really want something from those who only think they want it. When you stop complaining about the challenges and start embracing them, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your life. You stop waiting for things to get easier and start making yourself stronger. You stop hoping for fewer problems and start building better solutions. Here's a simple test you can do. For the next week, pay attention to how often you complain. Count the complaints. Notice what triggers them. Notice how complaining makes you feel. Notice how it affects the people around you. I guarantee you'll be surprised by what you discover. Then, the following week, try an experiment. Every time you catch yourself about to complain, stop and ask yourself this question: what can I do about this? Don't ask why it's happening or who's to blame or how unfair it is. Just ask what you can do about it, then do something, anything. Take one small action toward improving the situation. You'll find that most of the things you complain about are actually within your power to change or improve. And the things you can't change become much easier to accept when you're not wasting energy complaining about them. You'll also find that people start responding to you differently. They start seeing you as a solver instead of a complainer. They start coming to you with opportunities instead of just problems. Let me share something that happened to me just last month. I was at the airport and my flight got canceled. The gate area was full of angry passengers complaining to anyone who would listen. Complaining about the airline, the weather, their ruined plans, their bad luck. The gate agents looked stressed and overwhelmed. So while everyone else was complaining, I walked up to the counter and calmly asked the agent what options were available. She looked at me like I was from another planet. She was so used to dealing with angry complainers that a simple, calm question caught her off guard. She went out of her way to help me find an alternative flight, even upgraded me to first class because, as she put it, I was so easy to work with. Same situation, completely different outcome. The complainers were still sitting there hours later, still complaining. I was on my way to my destination, comfortable in first class, reading a good book. The difference wasn't luck or connections or special treatment. The difference was my approach. This is what I want you to understand. When you choose to act instead of complain, you give yourself power. When you complain, you give your power away. You make yourself dependent on other people changing, on circumstances improving, on life being fair. But when you focus on what you can do, you take control of your own experience. The most attractive quality a person can have is the ability to handle difficulties with grace. Not the absence of difficulties, but the graceful handling of them. When you meet someone who faces the same challenges everyone else faces, but doesn't complain about them, don't you immediately respect them more? Don't you trust them more? Don't you want to be around them more? This quality is becoming rare, which makes it even more valuable. In a world full of complainers, the person who just handles things quietly stands out like a diamond in a coal mine. They get the promotions, the opportunities, the respect, the relationships. Not because life is easier for them, but because they make life easier for everyone around them. I want you to think about the last time someone complained to you about their problems. How did it make you feel? Did it energize you or drain you? Did it make you want to help them or avoid them? Did it solve anything or just create more negativity? Most complaints are not requests for help. They're requests for sympathy. And sympathy, while sometimes appropriate, doesn't solve problems. Now think about the last time someone told you about a challenge they were facing and what they were doing to handle it. Completely different feeling, right? That person probably seemed stronger, more competent, more admirable. That's the person you want to be. That's the person others want to be around. The habit of doing without complaining doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. When you consistently take action instead of making excuses, you develop confidence in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. You stop fearing problems because you know you can solve them. You stop avoiding challenges because you know they make you stronger. This confidence becomes a magnet for success. People are drawn to those who seem capable and reliable. Opportunities flow toward those who have a reputation for getting things done. Resources gravitate toward those who can be trusted to use them well. When you become known as someone who delivers results without drama, You become someone others want to invest in. But here's the most important part. When you stop complaining and start acting, you don't just change your external circumstances. You change your internal experience. Life becomes more enjoyable when you're actively improving it instead of passively suffering through it. Work becomes more satisfying when you're solving problems instead of just enduring them. Relationships become deeper when you're contributing solutions instead of just sharing complaints. The choice is yours. You can join the crowd of complainers or you can be different. You can explain why things are difficult or you can make them easier. You can focus on what's wrong or you can work on making things right. You can be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. What makes you different is not your circumstances. Everyone has challenges. Everyone faces difficulties. Everyone faces unfairness and setbacks and disappointments. What makes you different is your response to these circumstances. What makes you different is your willingness to do what needs to be done without complaining about having to do it. This is your chance to set yourself apart. This is your opportunity to join the small group of people who make things happen instead of just talking about why things don't happen. This is your moment to become the person others look up to, the person others turn to, the person others want to follow. Don't waste it explaining why it's hard. Don't waste it listing all the obstacles. Don't waste it complaining about how unfair everything is. Use it to show the world what you're made of. Use it to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Use it to build the life you really want. The world doesn't need more complainers. The world needs more doers. The world needs more people who see what needs to be done and do it. The world needs more people like you if you choose to be different. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, commit to doing what needs to be done without complaining about it. When you face a problem, ask what you can do about it. When you encounter an obstacle, look for a way around it. When life gets difficult, get tougher. When things don't go your way, find another way. Make this your trademark. Make this your reputation. Make this what people know about you. That you're the person who handles whatever comes your way with grace, with determination, with quiet strength. That you're the person who gets things done while others are still talking about how hard everything is. This is what will set you apart. This is what will make you different. This is what will make you the person others admire, respect, and want to follow. Not because you don't have problems, but because you solve them. Not because life is easy for you, but because you make it look easy. Not because you're lucky, but because you make your own luck through consistent, positive action. The choice is yours. You can complain about your life, or you can change it. You can explain your problems, or you can solve them. You can be ordinary, or you can be different. What's it going to be? Let me tell you about George, who owned a small construction company. Construction is one of those businesses where everything goes wrong. Weather delays, material shortages, difficult clients, equipment breakdowns. Most construction guys spend half their time complaining about these issues, but George was different. When it rained, while competitors complained about lost time, George used those days to plan future projects or train his crew. When materials were delayed, he reorganized the work schedule instead of calling suppliers to complain. When clients changed their minds, he calmly explained the implications and adjusted the plan. George's company grew while others struggled, not because he had fewer problems, but because he solved problems instead of complaining about them. His father was a farmer who taught him, you can complain about drought or you can dig a well. The farmer who complains about conditions goes hungry. The farmer who works with conditions eats well. That's the mindset that separates winners from losers. Winners work with reality as it is, not as they wish it were. They don't waste energy being upset about things they cannot control. This principle applies to every area of your life. In your career, you can complain about your boss, your coworkers, your workload, or your salary. Or you can focus on improving your skills, increasing your value, building better relationships, and creating more opportunities. Which approach do you think will advance your career faster. In your relationships, you can complain about what your spouse doesn't do, what your kids don't understand, or what your friends don't appreciate. Or you can focus on being a better partner, a better parent, a better friend. Which approach do you think will improve your relationships? In your health, you can complain about getting older, having less energy, or dealing with aches and pains. Or you can focus on eating better, exercising regularly, and taking care of your body. Which approach do you think will make you feel better? The pattern is always the same. Complaining keeps you stuck where you are. Action moves you forward to where you want to be. Complaining makes you a victim of your circumstances. Action makes you the master. But here's something most people don't realize. When you stop complaining and start acting, you become someone who helps solve other people's problems. You become a source of strength instead of a drain of energy. I remember a meeting where a team was trying to solve a business problem. For an hour, people explained why it was difficult, why attempts had failed, and why it was nearly impossible. Then Lisa spoke up. She didn't explain the difficulty. She said, "Here are 3 things we could try, starting tomorrow." The energy shifted immediately. Everyone focused on solutions instead of problems. That's the power of action-oriented thinking. It's contagious. When you approach challenges with solutions instead of complaints, you inspire others to do the same. You elevate the conversation from what's wrong to what's possible. This is how you build influence and leadership without trying. People naturally follow those who focus on solutions rather than problems. They gravitate toward those who make situations better rather than just pointing out what's wrong. They respect those who take responsibility rather than those who assign blame. And here's something beautiful that happens. As you develop this habit of action without complaint, you start to see opportunities that complainers miss completely. While they're focused on obstacles, you're noticing possibilities. While they're explaining why something can't work, I've seen this happen countless times. 2 people face the same challenge. One complains about how difficult it is. The other quietly works on solving it. The complainer stays stuck in the problem. The doer often discovers that the challenge was actually an opportunity in disguise. Take Maria, a single mother who worked as a nurse. When her hospital required additional certifications for advancement, co-workers complained endlessly about the time, cost, and difficulty. Maria didn't join the complaints. She researched programs, found evening classes, arranged childcare, and enrolled. 2 years later, Maria got the promotion, not just because she had certification, but because management observed her approach to challenges. The complainers were still in the same positions, still complaining. They had spent more energy complaining than it would have taken to get certified. This is the choice you face every single day in small situations and big ones. When something doesn't go according to plan, when life throws you a curveball, when you encounter an unexpected obstacle, you have 2 options. You can complain about it, or you can handle it. You can focus on how unfair it is, or you can focus on what you can do about it. The choice you make in that moment doesn't just affect that particular situation, it shapes who you become. Each time you choose action over complaint, you strengthen your ability to handle future challenges. Each time you choose solution over problem, you develop your problem-solving skills. Each time you choose responsibility over blame, you increase your personal power. Over time, these choices compound into a different way of being. You become someone who automatically looks for solutions, naturally takes responsibility, and instinctively focuses on what can be done. People notice, they notice. You don't add to drama or make situations complicated. This reputation becomes one of your most valuable assets. Most people are drowning in complaints and negative energy. They're looking for someone who offers something different, someone who brings solutions instead of problems. When you become that person, opportunities seek you out. You don't have to convince people to trust you. Your actions demonstrate trustworthiness. Your results speak for themselves. This is your chance to be different. This is your opportunity to stand out in a world full of people who have confused complaining with communicating, explaining with achieving, and talking with doing. This is your moment to show what's possible when someone simply decides to handle whatever life brings without making a big production out of it. So make the decision, make it today, make it right now. Decide that you will be known as someone who gets things done, someone who finds ways instead of excuses, someone who builds bridges instead of walls, someone who lights candles instead of cursing the darkness. Your life is waiting for you to claim it, not by complaining about what's wrong with it, but by taking action to make it right, not by explaining why you can't, but by proving that you can, not by joining the crowd of complainers, but by standing apart as someone who actually does something. The world needs you to be different. Your family needs you to be different. Your career needs you to be different. Most importantly, you need you to be different. You need to become the person you're capable of being. The person who doesn't just talk about what should happen, but makes it happen. The person who doesn't just wish things were better, but works to make them better. That person is already inside you. That strength is already there. That capability is already yours. All you have to do is choose to use it. All you have to do is decide to be different. All you have to do is start doing what needs to be done without complaining about having to do it. The choice is yours. You can complain about your life, or you can change it. You can explain your problems, or you can solve them. You can be ordinary, or you can be different. What's it going to be?